Welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great Monday night. In today's episode, we have 4 topics to discuss today. Cole Anthony to the Milwaukee Bucks, what that means for the Detroit Pistons and Jaden Ivey. Player exception options, 4 players that we're going to be taking a look at from Hunter Patterson. He wrote an article a couple of days ago, wanted to kind of just discuss and give my overall reactions and opinions on the players that he did write in his article. Grant Hill and his opinions on the Pistons, and Russell Westbrook to the Pistons as well. It was reported that he could possibly be a dark horse candidate. So let's get into today's episode. Let's start with Cole Anthony to the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, got a tweet the other day from Shams Charania of ESPN, and he had tweeted out that Cole Anthony has agreed to a contract buyout with the Memphis Grizzlies and plans to sign with the Milwaukee Bucks after he does clear waivers. Sources tell ESPN Grizzlies finalized a buyout with Jeff Schwartz and Javon Phillips of Excel Sports for Anthony's new opportunity. Okay, so here's the thing, you guys. How this really affects the Detroit Pistons is now this guy's in your division. Now you have to see him 4 times a year. We all know what happened last season. Jaden Ivey playing the best ball of his career, gets his legs taken out from under him by a reckless basketball play by Cole Anthony, ends his season, only got to play 30 games. And just recently, he's back on the court doing 5v5 workouts with the Pistons. We learned from Trajan, I believe on Friday, he had reported that, Jaden's back to playing basketball. We're in July, you guys. So it took a good 6 months for Jaden Ivey to get back to normal. So got to see Cole Anthony 4 times a year. That's a revenge game. I'm sorry if I'm Jaden Ivey. And Jaden Ivey does not seem like the type of guy that, is a revenge type of person. Seems like a really laid back kid, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me as a fan. I'm letting my fandom leak out a little bit. Like I just can't stand Cole Anthony because it just wasn't Jaden Ivey that he made reckless basketball plays with. I was watching a Portland Trailblazer game, and he did it twice in a game, you guys. Like twice in a game, same type of play, diving for a basketball, taking the legs out of 2 Portland Trailblazers players, and they could have broke their leg as well. So I don't know, man. I'd be roughing up Cole Anthony if I saw him on the court personally, if I played for the Pistons. Dive at his leg, see how he likes it, Like I'm letting my fandom leak out way too much. I probably shouldn't, but hey, man, it's just anytime I see him play or some of the antics that he was doing in the playoffs against the Celtics, I just really can't stand the guy. But did want to touch on it for a couple of minutes that he is going to be playing in the Central Division, and the Pistons have got to see this guy 4 times a year. Now, probably a bulk of this podcast is going to be player exception options. Now, Pistons did get a TPE from the Sacramento Kings, part of the Dennis Schroeder trade, and they have around $14 million in player exceptions. Okay. Now, Hunter Patterson did a really good job, and he outlined, I believe, 5 guys. Now, one of the guys that he had in his article was Kelly Olynyk, and I'm not going to talk about Kelly Olynyk because he has gotten traded since Hunter wrote that article, I believe, on July 8th. But there are still 4 guys in this article that I do really like. There are 4 guys in this article that we're going to discuss. So one of the first guys that Hunter talked about, and I feel like he's kind of been a fan favorite when we talk about getting more power forward depth and help, it's PJ Washington. Now, we talked about PJ Washington I want to say maybe it was last week, if I remember correctly. These days are just going by so fast. But PJ Washington is a power forward. What kind of happens, acquiring Cooper Flag in the NBA draft? Is there a need for a PJ Washington? I feel like he's a very attractable, power forward that the Pistons could possibly get. Now, you kind of look at his contract details. He's on the final year of a $14 million contract, and it fits perfectly with the Detroit Pistons player exception. Like they could absorb PJ Washington's contract, and it wouldn't really go against the cap. He's a guy that I would be very interested in. And I know I got a little bit of pushback on it because some of you don't like the height with PJ Washington, but you kind of just look at the production that he does give you. He's a really solid player. He's not a, big name or a big fish, but if he's backing up Tobias Harris, you probably feel pretty confident if you are a Piston fan. That was the first name on Hunter's list. The second name that he mentioned was a guy that just got extended recently, and it's Herb Jones from the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, Herb still makes enough money if you're the Detroit Pistons to use your player exception. He's only making 13.9 million going into the 25-26 season. Now, his extension he signed was a 3-year, $68 million extension. So he's going to be locked up for the next 5 seasons with the Pels. And he's a very good player, a player that Trajan was there when he was drafted by the Pelicans. So I kind of like Herb Jones. I feel like he's a very underrated, underappreciated player. I know I've seen just his name floated around a lot with trade rumors and with the Lakers and other teams. I would love Herb Jones personally, you guys. I really like him as a basketball player. My only kind of pushback with the Herb Jones name is I don't really know if the Pelicans really want to trade a rotational piece like that unless they're getting something back in significant value. I feel like when you kind of look at their roster right now, I feel like he's a very important piece. Obviously, you talk about Zion, you talk about DeJounte Murray, the 2 rookies that they just drafted in Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. Like, I think if they were to move on from a Herb Jones, they would probably want something in return. Maybe it's a player that Troy Weaver drafted. It could be that. Maybe it's some draft picks. Who knows? But it's a name that Hunter did mention. I kind of like the name. I just don't know how realistic it could possibly be, just kind of given where the Pelicans are at. And if I'm being honest with you guys, I really don't know what their goals are for this season. Is it play in? Is it playoffs? Is it if we do well, we're happy. If we do poorly, let's just blow it up and send Zion and DeJounte Murray and just, tear the studs down and go into a straight rebuild. I really don't know what the Pelicans are trying to do. You got off CJ McCollum, you got off Brandon Ingram. I have so many questions as a Pistons fan, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. Like, what are the Pelicans trying to accomplish? Because I just don't know. You got Joe D there, you got Troy there. Like, I really don't know what the end game and the goal is for that franchise. But Herb Jones is a name maybe, we could keep an eye out. The third guy that was on this list is a power forward, Brandon Clark. Now, Brandon Clark, I think he's kind of in the same sense as he's underrated. He's a power forward. He's on a really cheap deal, $12.5 million, I believe, until the 2026-27 season, if I remember correctly. Maybe a buy low option if you're the Pistons is trying to get more of that power forward depth that I think all of us agree that the Pistons desperately need. I think Brandon Clark could definitely be an under the radar type move if you are the Detroit Pistons. He has improved a lot in Memphis, and Memphis does a really good job of drafting guys and developing them. I know we talked a lot about Santi Aldama this summer, about him possibly being an option for the Detroit Pistons, but maybe Brandon Clark is a little bit lower, maybe of the type of players we're looking at, but it's still a serviceable backup for the Pistons. So you're not forced to play Ron Holland at power forward. Like, I saw ESPN depth chart today, man. Like, I honestly laughed. Maybe we'll do a podcast kind of reacting to that depth chart because you guys want to get a good laugh. I had posted it on our Facebook page of this depth chart, man. It's all sorts of craziness. Kind of shows you that the people at ESPN don't really know what the Pistons depth chart will be, and they don't even know the type of players like putting I think they put Bobby Klitman in as a small forward when he's more of a power forward, and it was just all kinds of just craziness. But yeah, maybe kind of circling back, maybe Brandon Clark could be a guy that the Pistons possibly look at. And one of the final guys in this list, you guys, was Goga Batadze. Now, he's under contract. I I believe he's under contract for a couple more years. He's only making $8.3 million, and he's a center. If you followed the Orlando Magic, we talked about one of the former Magic players, Cole Anthony, at the top of the podcast. Like, Goga Batadze is a very efficient center. Orlando carried quite a bit last year. I believe they carried 3 centers. Um, I don't really think the Detroit Pistons need more center help. When you kind of just look at, you have Jalen Duren as your starting center. Isaiah Stewart is your backup center. You brought back Paul Reed, who I thought, given the circumstances, was a fine third string center. But I think the Gogo Batadze name, I like it. I just don't know if the Pistons want to carry 4 centers on the roster, or maybe you think Goga could be a power forward. I don't really buy that. I think he's more of a backup 5. This is my opinion. Maybe you guys think Batadze is more of a 4 than a 5, but I mean, a lot of those names, have a common theme. It's more power forward depth. And I think that's something that the Pistons definitely want to address. I don't think they want to go into the season and it's just maybe Tobias Harris, Bobby Klitman, or Ron Holland is your backup power forward. I think they'd like to have someone maybe that's a little bit more experienced. Not to say that Bobby couldn't fight for a backup power forward spot or Ron isn't capable of playing backup for. I think they just want a little bit more maybe consistency and experience if they are going to be backing up Tobias Harris. But hey, you never know. I could be wrong. It could be Bobby Klitman's spot is a backup 4, or Ron Holland could be a backup 4. I really don't know. I mean, it's July as recording this podcast. We could be completely wrong and reflect on this podcast and saying, "Oh, look at this idiot!" Like, right? But I mean, those are the names with the player exception article that Hunter did right over at The Athletic. If you guys do want to check it out, it's on one of his more recent articles. I think it was published on the 8th of July. Really good article and insight from him as always. Friend of the show. Hope he's doing well and appreciate all the hard work he does put in. I did want to transition over to Grant Hill. Now, Grant Hill, as you guys know, former Piston. The reason why I'm a Piston fan is because of Grant Hill. Fell in love with him. Thought every NBA player as a kid was athletic and could dunk like that. But he was on a show talking about the Pistons. And I'm going to put a quote on the screen for you guys, and we're going to read it and then kind of talk and react. So this is a quote from Grant Hill. It says, quote, JB Bickerstaff, the job he did, Trajan Langdon, the general manager, some of the free agents they brought in last summer, and then the young players, Cade Cunningham establishing himself as an all-star. They took a big step last year, and I think they have a chance to take another step, end quote. Love seeing former Pistons, especially the guy that I fell in love with as a kid and why I love basketball. Talk about his team. It's kind of funny. I saw some Hawks fans, because if you guys don't know, like, Grant Hill is actually, I think he's a minority owner last time I checked with the Atlanta Hawks. And he's talking about the Pistons and like how he could see them taking another step. And the one thing he said in that quote, and I've been reflecting on this a lot. I think when we talk about did the Pistons get better this free agency, I think the one thing that a lot of fans, myself included, is we're looking at the rotations, we're looking at the rosters. But what Grant said in there, talking about JB Bickerstaff. JB Bickerstaff's a damn good coach, right? We saw last season, we brought in veterans that, one, played a lot of games, had playoff experience, but came in, helped these guys believe that they could win basketball games. And I look at JB and the job he did last year, and I'm thinking, you're getting a you're getting more vets in Karras and Duncan, and you're bringing Paul Reed back. Who knows what they're going to do with the last couple of roster spots? But I think as a Piston fan and fans that listen to this podcast, whether it's on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you listen to on, I think I'm very confident in JB Bickerstaff's coaching ability to help the Detroit Pistons take that next step, is what Grant Hill was talking about, saying like I think there's another gear for them to kind of get even better. And you can look at, the Karras signing, the Duncan signing, and feel, hey, like, I don't know how we're going to replace Malik Beasley's 300 threes. I don't know how we're going to replace Tim Hardaway's 100 plus threes and all the charges and the veteran leadership and Dennis Schroeder. That is completely fair, and that is fine. I think there are both sides of the fence with that argument that I do agree and disagree with. But the one thing, I think when you look at JB and the type of coach he is, he's going to get the most out of these players. And we saw when Jaden Ivey went down, like this team, I don't know what it was, but they got even better on a month-to-month basis. They developed so much. There were things from, October all the way up to May, like the progression that Jalen Duren from October to May, incredible. Asar Thompson not having a training camp and, conditioning himself game by game. Awesome. He's having his first full off season and, working out, working with Fred Vincent, working on his jump shot. The summer league, Ron Holland looks incredible. He's shooting over 50% from three in 2 summer league games, and his shot looks good. His playmaking looks good. He's just being a disruptor out there defensively. Like, I'm really high on this coaching staff, and I'm really high on these young guys, our young core, if you will, continuing to get better. I know there are some people that will just look at the acquisitions and free agency, but we got to put some faith in this coaching staff. It took us from 14 to 44 wins, you guys. And a lot of these young guys took steps in development and got better. Who's to say they can't keep developing and keep getting better? Like, I've been so impressed with Ron Holland in summer league. Like, he's developed quite a bit. That shot looks great. It looks pure. Like, if he's hitting his 3-point shots at a pretty good clip, that's another dimension to this team that we're probably going to be discussing all season long, you guys. Like, that's really encouraging and really exciting as a Piston fan. So it's cool to see a former Piston, one of my favorite Pistons of all time, Grant Hill, talk positively about his team and his former team, I should say. And I agree with him. I do think the Detroit Pistons can take another step and continue to get better. Now, we're going to end the podcast with some speculation. So we're going to go over to this tweet from Jake Weinbach. We talked about, I believe, another tweet he had with like Nikola Vucevic, I believe, last week. So he had a tweet, and his tweet says, Russell Westbrook's free agency options have become limited, but I would not rule out the Pistons as a potential dark horse suitor. Despite minimal chatter surrounding the idea, Detroit should be targeting a veteran point guard on the market to strengthen its backcourt depth. Now, here's the thing. I never want to disrespect anyone's reporting or whatever Jake was trying to do. I actually commented on that tweet. I told him, I don't think your analysis is wrong, but I think they're looking for more power forward depth. I think they have a lot of intriguing options at backup point guard, whether you're going to be staggering Karis LeVert and Jaden Ivey, maybe Dennis Jenkins could earn himself a standard contract. I think there's a lot of options there with the Detroit Pistons. We also had Brett Siegel, who is a clutchpoints.com national reporter, and he was asked by someone on Twitter, are you hearing any Russell Westbrook to Detroit rumors? He says, not at all. Someone had commented that asked him the question. That's unfortunate. Would love to see Cade and Jaden have a mentor like Russ. With that being said, is there even teams wanting Russ? I feel like Detroit could get him at a discount? Does he really even have a market at the moment? Brett went on to say it could happen. Never say never, but I have not heard this at all. Detroit still has a roster spot to fill. Now, here's the thing, you guys. I think when we're this deep in the trenches in NBA free agency, a lot of things I've read in like reading articles from reporters that cover these teams, like the two teams that I've really looked at for Russell Westbrook is the Sacramento Kings and the Milwaukee Bucks could kind of be a team, I guess, because they don't really have too many point guards. But like, I wouldn't be opposed to Russell Westbrook on the Detroit Pistons. I wouldn't love it, but I'd be like, okay. Like, I think he would be a great mentor for Jaden Ivey. I really do. I mean, Russell Westbrook spoke very highly of Jaden Ivey when he was going through the Monty Williams situation where he wasn't getting a whole lot of playing time. Him and Donovan Mitchell during that season of just kind of encouraging him and tell him to keep going. Like, I know Russell Westbrook gets a lot of, hate and maybe negative press. And I get it. I mean, there are plays where you're just like, why are you shooting with 19 seconds left on the shot clock? But I mean, you can't deny just the career he's had, MVP. Like, he's a good player. He is. I just don't know if the Detroit Pistons are a team that is looking to bring him in. But, Brett said never say never. He just has not heard anything with the Westbrook thing. I think if I had to make a wager, I think the Pistons look at power forward or front court depth more than they would backup point guard. Especially when you kind of look at this summer league and how impressive Donis Jenkins is, and you still have Marcus Sasser, and then there's, conversations that Trajan had with the media talking about possibly staggering Jaden Ivey and how this could be a really big season for him. He liked Karis LeVert's ability to handle the basketball and set up offense. And so I think when you talk about, backup point guard, I think the Pistons front office and coaching staff, I think they feel kind of confident that Jaden Ivey and Karis LeVert can handle most of that. And if there is an injury, maybe it's Marcus Sasser or you do call up Donis Jenkins. If he's still on a two-way, or maybe the Pistons really like his summer league and he has a good camp and they give him a standard contract. But I wouldn't really read too much into the Russell Westbrook to Detroit. This sounds like some speculation from Jake. The last time we kind of reacted to one of his tweets, it was just pure speculation, no real reporting on the matter. But I mean, Russell Westbrook's a good player. But I feel like he does rub people the wrong way with his play style. I don't know, man. I feel like when you kind of look at this team, they do like to run a lot, and Russ likes to run. Maybe it would be a good fit. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. I really don't know. I'd have to actually see it in person to have like a overall opinion. Like, I'd kind of be like, I don't really care. It'd kind of be like, whatever. But wanted to wrap up this podcast. Didn't want to keep it up too long for you guys, probably about around 25 minutes or so. But let me know what you guys think of today's episode. Cole Anthony go with the Milwaukee Bucks. Have to see that guy 4 times a year. Those player exception options for the Pistons, which one of those would be your favorites? Grant Hill's comments on the Pistons taking another step, and kind of my opinion on JB Bickerstaff, kind of trusting him and trusting in the coaching staff of this team being able to develop and get better. And finally, the Russell Westbrook to Detroit chatter across social media with people. Let me know. Talk to you guys down below in the comment section. Like always, hope you guys are staying safe. Take care. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow after the Detroit Pistons and the Minnesota Timberwolves summer league game. Can they go 3-0? Is Ron Holland going to be playing? I don't know, but I can't wait to talk and see you guys tomorrow. As always, go Pistons. Peace.